Hey there, everybody. Thank you for joining me for another one-man review. I'm going to start going back through books that I've had for a long time. I've been reading so much new material, and I'm going to keep doing that. I love looking at new material, but I feel like I've got all these books on my bookshelf, and I never pick them up, and that's not the purpose of having books on bookshelves. I should be looking at them. So I'm going to, as I have time, go back through and reevaluate, try and do as many of the books that I have as I can. And I'm going to start with Stan Lee and Moebius's The Silver Surfer Parable. This book just jumped out at me off the shelf. I saw the cover and I wanted to read it. I threw away the dust jacket, which I know probably drives people crazy, but I actually really like this little black with the silver on it and nice stuff on the side. It had nice painting on the front, which I wish they had on the inside, but I just don't like dust jackets. So I haven't looked at this in a long time. I think this was maybe the first Moebius work I ever saw, actually, like a book that I actually owned by Moebius. So it's fun to go look back at that. It's fun to compare it to like my mental image of Moebius because it's a little different. Like a lot of the line work gets thicker and chunkier in places. And honestly, I like Moebius's art, but this isn't my favorite thing of his. It's not. I don't know. In the back he talks about like trying to work in a American style a little bit, and I think that pushing up against his own art, I don't know, it detracts a little bit, or maybe it's just some of how things get chunkier and more cartoony that I'm just not used to. But obviously the designs and the panel layouts and all that's amazing. The way he draws the surfer is amazing. He's got like this poetic elegance to him that's really cool. And the coloring is awesome, as always, on Moebius's work. So if you haven't read this book, the story is like projected into the future where the Silver Surfer has kind of been rejected by human society. It's been a long time since Galactus first invaded, and he comes back. And Galactus had made a promise the first time when the Silver Surfer and Fantastic Four defeated him that he wouldn't ever harm the people of Earth, but he's hungry now, and he's figured out that if he comes back and acts like a god and gives humanity permission to go do whatever they want, then they can harm themselves in the planet. And then he's fulfilling his promise, but he can still eat the Earth, which is fun. And he gives this little like Aleister Crowley speech where I am come to set you free from guilt, free from worthless man-made laws. If you would be saved, do what you will, take what you will. There is no wrong, there is no sin, pleasure is all. And so it has this kind of Crowley, do what thou wilt aspect to it. And then humanity takes it and they start going wild. Here's the first drawing of the Silver Surfer shedding off his like bum clothes and coming out. And this is where you see that, Moebius does a really stellar Silver Surfer as to be expected. So I think that's really cool. Throughout the book, Moebius is doing his own lettering, and he writes about that in the back and kind of admits that in some places his lettering's a little bit sloppy and hard to read maybe, but he also says, well, it's got to be like the artist's hand doing the lettering so it syncs up with the art, and he believes in that very much, even if someone's not the best letterer. And that indie artists have done that, underground artists have done that, and people could still read it. So he's doing that. I do like his lettering style. It's just, sometimes they get too close together. Sometimes there's like weird gaps here and there. And then his balloon placements are often awkward as well. But I really like the look of his lettering, and I agree, it looks like Moebius lettering. This little speech here by the Silver Surfer I thought was really nice as well. It is not given to us to know whether we shall succeed or not. In failure there is no disgrace. There can be but one ultimate shame, the cowardice of not having tried. That's a motto I live by. And I think that's real confidence. That's true confidence. Just being willing to try something and fail and not take it like a personal hit to your self-esteem. I try and teach that to my students all the time. If you don't do it, it's guaranteed failure. If you try it, you might fail, but whatever, you're still you. You can wake up and do it the next day. So this book's like pretty philosophical. And both Moebius and Stan Lee talk about that they think that's like the heart of the Silver Surfer is a more poetic, philosophical soul, and it's fun to see Stan Lee do that. It's not like I've read a ton of Stan Lee works, but it's like cheesy version of it, but it's still nice. This panel here reminded me a lot of Jodorowsky's Holy Mountain, which is fun because I know obviously Moebius and Jodorowsky had a pretty tight relationship. One thing that bothers me a lot about Moebius's lettering, and I think a lot of European comics in general, is they, especially older ones, the newer ones I haven't noticed as much, but the balloon placement thing is just like total chaos. They haven't made an art form out of that yet. So like the way there's overlaps here, and like this one overlaps that one, like links this all together to me. But you're supposed to read like here, 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 and here. And that kind of stuff was pretty frustrating to me throughout the book. I mean, you pick up on like not the convention, but the lack of convention, I guess. And you figure it out that it's supposed to go like that. But visually, I think someone as sophisticated as Moebius would see like the compositional uses of the balloons a little better. And he even talks about that, like he'll find some of his pages boring until he puts balloons on them and then they activate them. So I don't know what that kind of stuff is about. But story-wise, anyways, there's like a religious cult that builds up around Galactus, and they eventually realize, the leader of that realizes that they've got it wrong, and Silver Surfer goes and defeats him, not through power, but through people coming to realize that they shouldn't believe Galactus. They shouldn't take his word and misbehave, I guess. And so humanity decides to rebel against Galactus and not kill each other. And that's the hopeful message of the book, is that we can kind of rebel against our gods and choose our own path, a better path. And so Galactus gives up and leaves. It's like, well, one day you all mess up, and then I'll come back and eat you. And he flies off in his big, gigantic penis ship, which is kind of fun there. And then Silver Surfer has to realize that, now humanity views him as the savior, and if he takes that position, like, it's just going to be the same problem over and over again. So he acts like a tyrant on purpose and gets them all like, no, throw him out, we're never going to follow him. And only the religious leader who had been worshiping Galactus really becomes the voice of reason after being the voice of unreason throughout the book. It says, oh my God, no, we don't deserve the Silver Surfer. Like, he was doing that for us, like, but everyone else just buys into the ruse. And then so Surfer has to go off and be lonely again. And I really like, this is another bit of like kind of cheesy but really good writing by Stan Lee that resonates with me a lot. He says, I ride my board. It matters not how far. It matters not how fast. I have no destination. I go where the winds of chance may carry me. I have known the heady exaltation of victory. I have known the gnawing pain of defeat. But I shall never cease searching for an oasis of sanity in this desert of madness that men call Earth. For the worst fate of all amidst countless worlds and endless stars is to be forever alone. And those last three captions, especially about searching for an oasis of sanity, me and Tori talk about that a lot. It's like we moved out of California, which is gone completely insane on one side of the political spectrum, and then we moved into the deep south where things are still on the other far end of the political spectrum. And we're both kind of middling moderate people, and we often say, like, where's our middle place? From that show The Good Place, there's the good place, the bad place, and the middle place. And we kind of joke, like, where's our middle place? Where's the place to go where the moderates are? So anyone out there could tell me, maybe I'll start looking for jobs in the area. But yeah, the temptation. And we also talk about this a lot, like, screw it, like, let's just try and make a boatload of money and build a bunker out on some property and just ignore everybody. It's so tempting, especially with the way things are these days, how crazy the information environment has become. But that's not good. It's not healthy. And so I like this, a worse fate is to be forever alone. and that it's better to learn to get along in that middle place and try and create that oasis of sanity than it is to just remain forever alone and isolated. So I really like that. I really like the ending of that. And then it's got some really cool process stuff and notes by MOEBIUS about making the book. It's interesting to listen to him talk about, how he was trying to follow some of the conventions of like American comics and map his own stuff over it. And he says, I feel like French audience will look at this and think it's a very American book, and Americans will look at it and think it's a very European book. And I was like, yeah, I definitely think it's a European book. So I would be curious to hear more about that, but maybe there's some other interview or something where he talks about that. But it's cool to see what his layouts look like, to hear about how he liked the Marvel style working with Stan Lee. Cool to see the drawings reproduced in black and white. That's always fun. This one right here, he's showing some rejected pages. Like, this is a rejected page. It got too dark. And here he's saying that he really didn't like how he draw the woman's hair, and that he has a real hard time drawing women's hair. And it's fun because looking at that, it is definitely like, oh yeah, that's like if Stan Drake drew hair, but not that great. But that bounciness that Stan Drake that I'm so familiar with after Strange Death of Alex Raymond, it's really cool to see MOEBIUS, who I consider like an apex artist, to have an area that he feels not so great about, and then to have him point it out and to look at it and be like, oh yeah, if Stan Drake did that, it would be a lot better. So it's cool. It's cool to see that even your heroes still have some weaknesses and know where they're at. I wonder if he looked at Stan Drake at all. I know Stan Drake was pretty popular and remains popular in Europe, so I wonder if he took any influence. He doesn't say. He talks more about Milt Caniff than anyone else, but some color guides and stuff. So it's really cool. I don't know if they still make these or if these are out of print or whatever, but it's a really cool book, and I'm glad I picked it off the shelf and reread it. One of the best ways that you can support what we're doing here on the channel is to support the books that Sean's putting out through Living the Line. The first book that he put out is The Strange Death of Alex Raymond. It's a collaboration between Dave Sim and myself. The book was recently nominated for an Eisner Award in the Best Reality-Based category. It's a deep dive into the artwork and methods of Alex Raymond and the mystery surrounding his death in a car crash. So if you haven't grabbed that already, please do. There's also Yokoyama Yuichi's Plaza, which is a totally intense manga by an artist who has somehow figured out how to distill manga down to its purest essence. This book was successfully funded on Kickstarter, but if you missed the Kickstarter, you can order it through any comic store, any bookstore, Amazon, any place that you would normally get your graphic novels from. The Abolition of Man is a 5-issue mini-series done by myself and Sean in collaboration with the Midjourney AI. What you're seeing here is the cover to issue 1 and the first couple pages of issue 1. This first issue, we fed it an essay by C.S. Lewis, and this is just the imagery that the computer spat back at us. Issues 2 and 3 are a narrative, starting with the story that I wrote when I was 21, and then Sean's going to write issue 3, picking up where I left off. In this one, I'm kind of trying to force the AI to give me the images I want, and then doing some tweaking in Photoshop to get these kind of colored looks on it. For issue 4, we're turning the task of writing over to the AI as well. So the AI has written the script, and then we've just put that into the Midjourney AI, and it's turned out art. The script and the art is some of the absolutely most horrific stuff I've ever seen. We're a bit scared to even publish this issue. And I don't have any art to show for it yet, but Sean and I have decided to do a 5th issue of Abolition as well, because we have someone who we're really, really excited to have on board, providing an essay for that 5th issue that we'll illustrate, and we'll announce more about that soon. Thanks for following along. Take it away, Jack.
You want to see all these books? Smash